I'm Patrick McConville, and welcome back to EdibleArchitect, where we make it quick and easy to build beautiful and delicious cookie houses. Last month, for the February edition, we built Cupid's Cookie Cottage using an original gluten-free, rice flour-based raspberry tart cookie. If you missed that one, please check out our YouTube channel where you can find all of our videos. Please make sure to like and subscribe and add any comments if you have projects that you'd like to see or any comments on what we're doing. Today, for the March edition, we will be building Leprechaun Lair, a shamrock themed house, and we will be using our texture roller and EdibleArchitect cookie cutter construction set to do so. So if you'll be building along with us, go ahead, grab your kit and your supplies, and we can go ahead and get started making our dough. When you're ready to begin building your house, first grab your waterproof blueprints out of your cookie cutter construction set and locate the section entitled Building Materials. That is where you will find all of the ingredients to make the recipe that we'll be cooking today, which is an herbaceous mint chocolate chip recipe that I invented specifically for this cookie house. The ingredients that we'll need for today are first, unsalted butter, softened to room temperature, white granulated sugar, cake flour, kosher salt, and baking soda. These are mini chocolate chips, our peppermint and vanilla, our fresh mint, 2 cups which I have chopped up, as well as our 2 egg whites. And you will also need either a hand mixer and a bowl or a stand mixer to mix your dough together, and either a blender or food processor to go ahead and grind up the mint and mix it with the egg whites. So go ahead, assemble all of your materials, and then when you're ready, you can begin to cream your butter and sugar together. So once you have creamed your sugar, so there's no more loose sugar in the mixture, but you do not want to over mix, you can go ahead and grab your egg whites and your fresh chopped mint. And before I add these to the blender, I like to chop the mint and then add the egg whites to that mint. And just use a fork to break it up a bit, just to break up the egg whites and incorporate some of the mint into that suspension before you add it to the blender. Okay, so once you've added the ingredients to your blender, you just want to blend it for a little bit just to get everything really ground up, because you don't want the chunks of mint to be too large in your cookies because it may make it difficult to cut out the pieces. But you also do not want to overmix, because you will whip up the egg whites and eventually the mixture will stop mixing anyway. So just go ahead, grind those up a bit, and then we will add that to our butter and sugar mixture. And you can go ahead and add in your peppermint and your vanilla. Okay, so we're going to take that egg mixture now, which smells very minty and it looks a bit like pesto, and we will add that to our butter sugar mixture. And once you've blended that mixture into your butter and sugar, you can go ahead and begin adding your flour, baking soda, and salt mixture. And that you will want to do in roughly 1/4 cup increments. And after you have mixed all of your ingredients together and the dough is combined, you should end up with a nice dough that holds together, something like this. So just take it out of the bowl, and then I recommend splitting it into 2 pieces and wrapping each piece with plastic wrap. And you can then choose to either make the house right away or store the dough in the fridge for up to a couple of days. I'm gonna go ahead and make this right away, but I will still wrap the dough in plastic wrap just to keep it from drying out as I cut out all of my pieces. So go ahead, take your dough, wrap it in plastic, and then come back and we will begin rolling out our dough and cutting our pieces. When you're ready to begin baking the pieces for your Leprechaun Lair, assemble your materials. You will need some cake flour to dust your surface and your dough. You'll need a rolling pin, and I highly recommend these rolling pin bands so that you can achieve that 1/8 inch consistency for your dough. You'll need your dough balls, and you will also need, of course, your cookie cutter construction set. So you'll see that the set that we've come up with for the March design is a nice shamrock and leprechaun motif. We're calling it Leprechaun Lair, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. Go ahead, and when you do cut this out, you want to make sure that you save all of the shamrock cutouts, because you can use those in order to glue them back on using some icing and decorate the house. You also want to make sure that when you do cut out your pieces, you use your blueprints to identify which pieces you'll need more than one of. So for example, for the chimney, you'll need 2 each of the front and sides of the chimney, as well as the side walls of the house. So once you've gone ahead, gotten your cookie cutter construction set, your waterproof blueprints, and then also tools to help you to get the cutouts out of the cookie cutter pieces, you can go ahead, grab your dough, and start rolling it out on some parchment paper. So I'm going to go ahead, preheat the oven to 375, and I will line about 4 cookie sheets with parchment paper so I can begin rolling everything out and cutting out our pieces. Now, when you're ready to begin rolling out your dough and cutting out your pieces, you want to make sure that you have not put the chocolate chips into your dough before you roll it out, because it will prevent the dough from rolling out thin enough, and it will make it very difficult to cut neat pieces using your cookie cutters. So what we'll do is cut all of our pieces, and then at the end go back and press the chocolate chips in before we bake everything. As you're working with your dough, if it ends up getting too crumbly and it won't hold together when you're trying to knead it to roll out more pieces, just wet your hands slightly and then knead the dough a little bit, and it should start to come together. You just want to make sure you do not add too much water. So do that process very slowly until the consistency is back to something that you can work with. And I should mention as well that you should definitely use cake flour for this recipe. Cake flour is specifically meant to make a really crispy cookie, and it's actually 27 times finer than all-purpose flour. So if you use all-purpose flour, you won't get the same result. It won't have the same texture, and it won't be as smooth of a dough and as easy to work with. When you're ready to start rolling out the pieces for your roof, you will want to grab your Leprechaun Lair Shamrock Cookie Texture Roller, if you have one, and have that handy, because what we will do is roll out the dough, roll the texture over the dough, and then use the cookie cutters to cut out the pieces so that we get those nice shamrocks on our roof. So once you've got your piece rolled out and you've identified where you're going to cut your piece, just take the texture roller and make sure that you're rolling along the long direction of the cookie cutter. So whatever that long edge of the cookie cutter is, you want to roll along the long edge. So I'll just put some cake flour on my roller and press it firmly down into our dough. And you'll see that we get this subtle but beautiful little shamrock texture on our roof. So when you're done rolling out and cutting out all of your pieces, you should have a ball of dough about this large left. So if you don't have enough to cut out all of your pieces, or if you don't have this much left, then that means you're not rolling them thin enough. So definitely look into those bands, and you want to achieve that 1/8 inch thickness in order to achieve a nice crispy cookie and a beautiful, neat looking house. So now that we've cut out all of our pieces, we can go ahead and grab our chocolate chips. Once you've cut out all of your pieces, don't worry if you see little bits of the mint that are coming out through the edges. Those will get really crispy in the oven and then they'll flake right off, so don't worry at all. It is nice that you're using fresh mint because you don't have to add any food coloring and you get a nice green color to the house that uses that mint, and you get a nice green flavor as well. So now that we've cut our pieces, we can go ahead and hand place our chocolate chips. So we're just going to take our mini chocolate chips and at random press them into each piece. And once you've done that, then you'll go ahead and transfer all pieces to the oven, cook them for approximately 12 minutes, and then transfer them to a wire rack so that they can cool completely, probably about 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll go ahead, I will do that, and I'll see you back here with our baked pieces that we can then begin to assemble, creating our Leprechaun Lair. Once you've baked all of your pieces and you're waiting for them to cool, you can go ahead and prepare your mortar. For this recipe, I have invented a cocoa powder mortar where you will have a chocolate flavor that will go really well with the mint cookie. So we will go ahead and get started with the mortar or royal icing with cocoa powder mixture. Here I have the mixture, the dry mixture rather, which is confectioner sugar. It is cocoa powder and cream of tartar, which I've whisked together. And then I have my 3 room temperature egg whites, which I will go ahead and add to the bowl of the stand mixer here. You can use a hand mixer if you'd like, but this is something that you probably would have a really hard time doing by hand. So whether you're using a stand mixer or hand mixer is immaterial, but go ahead, add the egg whites to your bowl, and then we will go ahead and whip those egg whites on high for 2 to 3 minutes until they're foamy, and then we will begin incrementally adding the dry mixture. Okay, and once you have a foamy consistency, you can begin adding your cocoa powder mixture. And you want to go ahead and add that in maybe 1/4 cup or so increments. And you can go ahead and scrape down the sides of your bowl as well throughout the process. And just keep doing that until you have all of it well incorporated. putting your mixer on high. And once you've added in the last of your dry mixture, you can go ahead and turn your mixer on high and let it run for 5 to 7 minutes until you have a nice thick consistency. And the goal is really to get something that will hold the building together, but won't be too thick to push through a piping bag or Ziploc bag, depending on your preference. So I will come back in 5 to 7 minutes. We will take our icing and we will fill our pastry bag. Okay, so I have a texture that will work to get the house together, but it should be the right consistency to get through a pastry bag. And it smells very chocolatey. So once you have your icing, take a spatula and grab your pastry bag if you'll be using one. I do like to use one because it's much easier and cleaner to pipe the icing through, and you can put decorative tips on if you want to make the icing have various shapes. But whatever you're using, whether it be a Ziploc bag with the corner cut out or a pastry bag, just use the spatula to bit by bit add all of the icing to the receptacle that you'll be using. And once you have your icing in the pastry bag, you can lift the collar and then press the frosting down. And this is very thick, so I will probably go with a thicker tip, but it looks like that will work. I will take a clip to seal off the end, and we've got our mortar. So at this point, we can start construction on the house itself. So we will take our cooled pieces and we will begin to assemble them on whatever you'll be using for construction. So come back and we will walk through what I will be using to build the house, and we will get started putting it together. When you're ready for the build phase, you should have first and foremost your cookies, which should look something like this. And you just want to do a count to make sure that you have 2 of the appropriate pieces where needed. Everything here came out really nice and clean. And if you have made cookie houses before, you know that if you made these by hand, it would take virtually all day to cut everything out, where we did it within a few minutes. So the cookie cutters really did their job. I'm really happy with how everything came out, and it smells amazing. And I went really light with the chocolate chips because I am going to use the chocolate icing to really give it that mint chocolate flavor. I use them more for decoration on the outside so that you know what kind of house it is. It's clearly a mint chocolate chip, an herbaceous mint chocolate chip. And we can go ahead and begin assembling the structure. So I am going to use this base, which I bought at a local discount home goods store. And I drilled a hole directly through it so that I could snake a light kit up and through, which I've then bundled and neatly put here in the center of the board. I've also taken the sidewall of my EdibleArchitect cookie cutter construction set for Leprechaun Lair, along with the front wall. And I've used those to trace with a pencil where the two front and side walls of my house will be. So that will give me a nice squared starting point so that you get a nice clean and neat structure. Okay, so once you've done that, you can go ahead and also make sure that you have whatever you'll need once you begin putting the house together, because you don't want to get into a situation where you have your hand holding something up, you don't have anything to support it, and you need to step away. So I like to use a box of baking soda, for example, as a support so that as I'm putting everything together, I can use it to rest certain pieces against. And then you also want your mortar, of course. And you can use your EdibleArchitect waterproof blueprints to follow along on the back side your construction plan. So I will first take the mortar and add a line of icing where the front wall of the house is going to be. So here we okay. And once we have that done, we can take the front wall of the house, and you'll see on the front wall, I think it's really cute, and we haven't even decorated it. It's just from the cookie cutter, but a really cute leprechaun popping out of his front door and all of the little shamrock cutouts. So we can go ahead, take that piece, and sit it right down into that line of icing perpendicular to where the side wall will be. And then you can take your support, put it inside of where the house will be, and lean that wall temporarily. And then you can go ahead and add, actually, I'll do it this way. Take one of your side walls, so whichever side you want to be this first side. I will start with this piece here. And you want to add a line of icing along whichever edge will go against the front wall. So that will be this edge here, and then of course along the bottom. So add a line of icing along those two edges. And we have our first two walls. And they should be nice and square, so press the edges together so that you get nice clean corners. That's the whole point of these cookie cutters, is to make nice clean cookies where you get perfect edges. And at this point, I can remove my support. You can keep it there if it makes you more comfortable. And because the icing is thick enough, everything is holding together nicely and hopefully will dry quickly. Now we'll take our other side wall. And again, identify which edges we need to put icing on. So this edge will face the front wall, and this edge will face our stand here. So add a line of icing to each of those edges. And then press that sidewall into place so that it is perfectly perpendicular to that front wall. Great. Okay, so we have 3 walls. Now we will be applying our back wall. So take your back wall, and we will first apply icing to the front edges of the 2 side walls, and then to the bottom of the back wall. And then we will press those pieces into place. So I will put icing on the front edges. My icing is getting a little dry in the tip here. So this icing does dry very quickly, which is great, as long as you work quickly. Okay, so we have icing on those front edges. Now, the bottom edge of the back. And then we will press that back piece into place. And then just make sure that your edges line up where you want them. Press them together so that you get a nice squared structure with clean edges. And so now we have our base structure. And you can see it's really cute, actually. You have your leprechaun, you have his pot of gold, and I think with some gold decorations, it'll be really cute. At this point, I want to put our chimney together so that that can dry a little bit before we apply it to our roof. So first, take one of the front or back pieces of the chimney and add a line of icing on the inside face, so not the face that will be facing out from the chimney, but the face that will be inside, and add a line of icing to either side. Then take that piece and place it down on your work surface. Take the side of your chimney and press it against that first line of icing to form a nice clean edge. Take the second side of your chimney and do the same on the other side. And then finally take the remaining front or back. On the inside face, apply 2 lines on either, 1 line on either side. And then press everything together so that you have a nice chimney with squared edges. And then you can take that and place it somewhere to dry. And the icing should set up rather quickly, so it shouldn't be very long. Now we will apply our roof. And to apply the roof, we will first, on the back side of the house, so not the side with the leprechaun, but the side with the pot of gold. And we will apply icing to the top 3 edges. So this side edge, this back edge, and this side edge. And then take whichever roof piece you think looks worse and use that as the back roof piece. So here, I think they both look fine. I'll use this as my, oh no, this piece has a crack, so I'll use this as the back. And then you can see that we have that shamrock texture from our texture roller that's been imparted on the roof, and therefore I didn't put any chocolate chips on the roof pieces, but you can. And then take that piece and just press it down against those 3 lines of icing, forming the back of your roof, but making sure that the back at the top does not protrude beyond the top peak of the roof. So just hold that for a second, and then it should be fine on its own. And we have applied the back roof. At this point, we can go ahead and add a line of icing along the top 3 edges of the front side and along that edge at the peak. Okay, and then we're going to take the front roof piece and press that into place along the front. And then just hold everything in place. Make sure that your edges line up the way that you like. And I like to try to overlap the front roof at the top edge over the back roof just a little bit, because then from the front you get a nice clean appearance. Okay, and it looks like that is dry. So now we have an enclosed structure. Luckily this time I did remember to take the baking soda box out, so I will put that aside. And from here we can begin decorating, and then once it's dry enough we will put our chimney on. So I baked all of those shamrock cutouts that I had taken from the house, as well as the positive space pot of gold. So I'm going to use icing just to stick those all over the house where I want, stick them on the platform, and then the rest I'll just serve as cookies because they are actually really good. So go ahead, decorate as you like, and then we will come back, put our chimneys on, and light up our houses. Foolishly, I forgot all about our chimney, so I am going to remove this and carefully take our chimney and add icing to the edges with the cutout. And then press that down and into place at the middle of our roof here, or wherever you'd like it. And we have our chimney. Okay, and there we have it, our Leprechaun Lair in our Herbaceous mint chocolate chip cookie with our cocoa royal icing. So definitely a delicious recipe. Even if you don't make cookie houses, I think you would enjoy it just as a cookie, but look at this cookie house. So I'm gonna clean up, we will come back, we'll light up the house, and then we will be finished and ready to eat. When you're finished decorating, you should end up with something like this. I know that my name is Patrick and I am Irish, but I do think that this is a pretty darn good design. And the cookies taste really great. So if you like mint chocolate chip, or even if you don't, or if you're looking for a healthy alternative to a cookie that might have food coloring in it and you're looking for something green, definitely check this out. And now, without further ado, we can light up Leprechaun Lair. I kept the lights bundled up inside, but I unbundled them a little bit so that they would fluff up and give more light, and they're shining through all of our cutouts. I did think about adding some gold decorations around the pot of gold, but once I finished with the chocolate, I just wanted to keep it simple, and then that way people won't have to worry about chewing on those gold balls. So everything is fully edible and really delicious, and I think it would go great with coffee. So just to take a quick tour of our structure, we have our Leprechaun Lair featuring our leprechaun with a shamrock motif. And as you can see, you can glue the cookies all over the outside of the house if you reserve the cutouts and bake them. And those are the parts that at a dinner party, people will pull off first and eat first. And then you can see that shamrock motif carries throughout. And on the back, we have, of course, our pot of gold. So from this Patty at EdibleArchitect, happy St. Patrick's Day. I wish you a great March, and I can't wait to see what you build. If you enjoyed this project, please like and subscribe, and please leave us a comment if you have something that you might like to see for a particular holiday, an idea you're thinking of, or if you think that there's a way we might be able to improve what we're doing. We'd love to hear from you, and again, if you subscribe, it really helps us out because we can get broader reach and do more fun with our projects. That business aside, once you're finished with everything, wash your cookie cutter construction set and your texture roller with soap and water, and then we can return them to the boxes. So you want to keep the box for your Leprechaun Lair, open that up, and you can put your waterproof blueprints back in the box. Those you can wash in the sink as well. Just make sure you dry them before you roll them up. Your cookie cutter construction set, and then your texture roller. And you can go ahead, return those to your shelf, and then come back next St. Patrick's Day or whenever you're feeling like eating an Irish-themed cottage. Thanks so much for joining us. I had a great time. I hope that you did, and I can't wait until next time. And I am already thinking up what we're going to make next.